Facebook Live, we have arrived one more time. Let's get ready to get it in, y'all. If this alarm stop, come on, alarm. Excuse me, y'all. Thanks for your patience, y'all. Again, Facebook Live, we have arrived one more time. Let's get it in.
Conference muted. Conference recording started.
Want to thank everybody for chiming in. This is Watchman Yahudah Israel, also known as Pastor Derek Mann, on the Early What I Seek These Scripture Study and Prayer Line on his 14th day in February 2020, y'all. 2K. Let's get it in. We'll end up going. How y'all doing, Teresa, Big Sean, and Al Mal, Big Mark, Elder, Mother Joyce, Cam, JB, Felicia in the building, Rockins, my son Neil. What's up with it, buddy? Charvet in the house. Nicole. We wall to wall, treetop tall, y'all. It's going down this morning. Let's let the Most High talk to us. Is that all right? Why don't we go to Matthew, y'all, the 16th chapter. Spikes in the house. Why don't we go to Matthew 16, and let's see what the book says. Let me show y'all a couple things this morning. Starting at 13th verse. 16 and 13. Look what it said. It said, when Yahushua came to the coast of Caesarea of Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, some say that thou art Yahudah, or John the Baptist. Some say Elijah. Others say Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. And he said unto them, but whom say ye that I am? And Kepha said, or Simon Peter said, thou art the Messiah, the Son of the living Elohim. And Yahushua answered and said unto him, blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood have not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also unto thee that thou art Kepha, and upon this rock I will build my ecclesia, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And I will give unto thee keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Then charged he his disciples that they should tell no one that he was the Messiah. From that time forth, this is what I wanted, y'all. Battle in the house. Good to see you on, sir. From that time forth, 21st verse, from that time forth began Yahushua to show unto his disciples how that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elder. He's going to go to Jerusalem. He's going to suffer many things of the elders and of the chief priests and of the scribes, and be killed, and be raised again the third day. Then when Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, be it far from the Messiah, this shall not be unto thee. But he turned and said unto Peter, Get thee behind me, Satan. Thou art an offense unto me, for thou savorest not the things that be of Yah, but those things that be of men. Spirit of the Most High, we love you and thank you for this opportunity, asking you to send a relevant word to this here, your people, for we need you, they need you, I need you. We need you, we believe you. Illuminate us, quicken us, make us alive according to your truth. And we'll be careful giving you the praise and honor not only now but forevermore. In the matchless name of Yahushua HaMashiach, we humbly pray. Hallelujah and amen. Well, what we read was he asked a question to his disciples, who do people say that I am? Because it is so important to know who he is. Because based on how you see him is how you're going to live. It's going to be the quality believer life or the quality less believer's life. It's all dependent upon how you see the Messiah. Some people see him as an excuse to sin. From a theological position that Jesus did it all on the cross. And some people see him as power not to sin, as born again believers. So it just depends on how you see him. When he was able to ask his followers, the ones that he was raising and teaching, how they view him, they understood that he was the tabernacle of the word, that he was the lamb, the son, the Yah-man, the embodiment of the word, the human embodiment of the word, the son. Most High was able to say, flesh and blood has not revealed this unto you. So moving forward, he then began to explain to them what suffering was all about. See, you won't understand the need to suffer. You won't understand the need to suffer, nor will you be willing to suffer unless you understand who he is. When you meet the believer that don't understand the necessity of self-denial and suffering, then you met a believer that really don't know him. See, if you notice, when he asked the question and they answered, Peter answered right. He was speaking for the disciples. He answered the question right. He said, okay, I'm establishing my ecclesia, my body. The body of believers is going to be established on the fact of who I am, right? That revelation is given on to the believer, because you notice he told them to go around, don't tell folk. They ain't going to be able to accept it anyway. The only people that can accept it is the true believer. On a whole nother level, which I'm not going to really get too deep in right now, but it's a whole nother level to really know who he is. Because some people just see him as a third person in a Trinity, which is a whole nother conversation that I'm not going to deal with right now. But notice that he did say stuff like, if you do not know that I am he, you shall die in your sins. And if you look up that he, it's the same I am he from the I am that I am. Back to the point. After they established the fact of them knowing who he is, look at the 21st verse. From that time forth began the Messiah to show unto his disciples how that he must go into Jerusalem and suffer Yeah. From that time forth began the Messiah to show unto the disciples how he must go unto Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and of the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed and be raised again the third day. It wasn't until then he began to teach them redundantly. He began to open up scripture, open up Torah, open up the Tanakh, the Old Testament, and begin to show them how he had to suffer. People that really don't know him won't suffer, will not participate. People that don't know him are the type of people that won't fast for 24 hours, 48 hours, for 72 hours, or longer. People that know him is the type that's willing to go without food and water for days at a time, seeking his face, afflicting themselves to certain levels of suffering, getting closer to him. People that know who he is the type that will witness, that will live it. Even after the ecclesia adjourn and we all go about our daily activities, those that know him are the ones that will continue to talk about him, will get off the line and still study. Those are the type that involve them in every part of their being, including supporting ministry. Those that know him give. Those that know him forgive. Those that know him help people. Walk in the spirit of love to the point of self-denial. Those that know him can be cussed out and still know how to respond right. Can be falsely accused and still do what's right. See, it wasn't until it was established that they really knew who he was. It wasn't until then that he began to show them the suffering he had to undergo. Well, Peter took him and began to rebuke him. Peter heard what he said. But Peter still had carnality in him. He loved him, but Peter wasn't ready for that. Then Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, "Be it far from thee." No. His response was no. Where did that no come from? Came from his humanism. Came from him being associated with the truth of the word. It was revealed to him the responsibility of the word and the self-denial that was necessary to be acquainted with the word. The Messiah began from that time forward, after knowing that they knew who he was, to let them know the responsibility of the gospel and how one would have to walk in self-denial in order to live his life, all the way to the point of death. All the way to the point of death. I'm not quitting ever. For nothing or nobody. For no reason. I'm all in. Period. Kill me, I'm all in. Peter wasn't ready for that. How many Peters we got? How many Kephas we got on the line? So Peter took him and began to rebuke him. Saying, no, be it far from you. Adonai, no. This shall not be unto thee. Don't you dare, you can't do this. What was talking, y'all? Who on here is not willing to suffer? Real talk, who on here, how many of y'all stingy? You like to believe you give, but how many of y'all stingy? How many of y'all hold grudges? Is there anyone that love the Most High, and you say you do, but you're sleeping with someone you shouldn't. And you know the word is telling you don't do it, but you do it anyway. Is that person on here listening? Peter was in the presence of truth, the truth of the word, and it was just disclosed to him the necessity of self-denial, that the Most High will might be done on earth as it is in heaven. Peter heard it, and the Messiah waited to the perfect time to tell him. He didn't do it prematurely. You got to know who he is in order to be willing to suffer. And Peter proved he knew who he was. So that's the platform that now you can receive the revelation of the necessity to suffer. You know the word says, he that suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin. He that suffered in the flesh. In other words, when you cease from sinning, you're going to be suffering in your flesh. When you start doing what the word tells you to do, your flesh is going to be kicking and screaming, and you're going to suffer because your flesh don't agree with the word. That's why you got to walk in self-denial in order to be his child for real. Again, we're not talking about being religious. We're talking about a true relationship. Who he's really coming for to rescue from this wicked world. You're different than religious people. People with relationship are different from religious people. Religious people do what the heck they want to and just know a bunch of church songs. Do a bunch of physical festivals, growing beards and wear fringes and physical religious stuff. But people that belong to him live the meaning of the beard, live the meaning of the oil and the fringes and the feast days, understanding that all that was pointing towards the Messiah. And if you got him, you got all the physical wardrobe on lock. You got better than the physical. So religious people and people with relationship are different. And when you really get to know him, you become different. You move different. You wake up different. Your agenda for the day is different. How you spend your time, who you spend your time with is different. It is different from those that are religious, having a form. So Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, "Be it far from thee." Why did he do that after having the revelation of who he was? He got the revelation of who he was, and the Messiah did not explain to them the level of suffering he had to undergo until they knew who he was, because that is the necessity. And though he knew, he still wasn't ready for that level of self-denial. You notice how, I won't go there yet. So Peter began to rebuke him, saying, "Be it far from you, Adonai," aka Master, right? "This shall not be unto thee." But he turned and said unto Peter, to Kepha is his name, y'all. But he said unto Peter, "Get behind me, Satan." He was talking to that spirit, the spirit that bucks up against the word. He was addressing someone he raised, and he was talking to the spirit that he was of. He was under the influence of a spirit. And any time we're faced with a spirit that rejects the word, that rejects the necessity of suffering, that rejects the necessity of self-denial, it is the spirit of the enemy. It is the adversary. It would be the adversary that will cause one to believe, I ain't got to take that. I ain't got to go through that. That is not the spirit of the Most High. That is the spirit of the adversary. He had need to go to Jerusalem to suffer. And he was going to suffer many things, and he knew it, and he said it. But he was willing to do it. He didn't want to in his flesh, but it was a necessity. There's a lot of things that we don't want to do in our human nature, but it's a necessity to deny your evil nature so that you can do what the Most High called you to do. Live the way he told you to live. It's a necessity. And Peter went against the necessity, sided with his humanism, and said, no. So the Messiah's response, though he lived in the body as well, the word was fashioned as a man. He had the same feelings that Peter had. So he understood where he was coming from, but his response was, get behind me, Satan. You're under the influence of your humanism as opposed to being under the influence of the word. He turned and said unto Peter, get behind me, Satan, adversary. Thou art an offense unto me. Why was it offense? Why was he offended? Because he was in the flesh too. And when we have to suffer in our flesh in order to do what the word told us to do, it can get difficult on us in our flesh. It can get difficult. And you don't need somebody with you siding with your evil nature, telling you to sleep with them anyway. They a good person. Keep them. You're going to lose them if you don't sleep with them. You don't need them to tell you, oh, just one more. Smoke one more. You're too hard on yourself. Drink another one. You tripping. You don't need that. That's the spirit of the Christ. That's the spirit of the devil pulling on you. So he turned to him and said, you're offending me. Thou savoreth. You're partial towards not the things of Yah. You're still operating in your carnal nature, but the things that be of man. That's when he told them, moving forward. Yahudah said unto his disciples, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his torture stake, and follow me. You got to walk in self-denial because the mission ahead is a spiritual one, and how we used to live is anti that. That's why all this religious stuff that's going on is a bunch of mess. You need true relationship. You need religious stuff, getting a little cup of grapefruit juice and a little cracker. And so you eat that like you did something. When the truth of the matter is the little wafer represents the bread that came down from heaven. It's the word. Drinking the little grapefruit juice, it represents the blood that was spilt so you could partake in the bread, the word. Communion means fellowship. Where two or three are gathered in my name. True communion is happening right now. Religious people get little cups of grapefruit juice and little crackers. Because that's religious stuff. I ain't got time for that. Symbolic language taken literally by carnal religious people. When the truth of the matter is, in the beginning, Adam went against the word. The word came down 42 generations, reintroduced himself in the body, in the embodiment of a man. That perfect man that lived a perfect example. And he had to suffer in order to pull it off. Died on the tree and got up out of here. Came back without the body as the living word. So now we can eat that true bread. Walk in obedience to the Most High. Period. And walking in obedience to the Most High is walking in the spirit of love. You take the 10 Commandments, put it in a blender, blend it, put it in a drink. You got a love smoothie, which I can expound on deeper later, because it's deeper than that. But it is that 100%. It's definitely that. But in all that getting, get understanding. But back to this. So if you come after him, you got to deny yourself. Let me show you something else. He's talking to Peter. Y'all go with me to Yachanan, and they call him John, right? So let's go to John. Let's go to John 18. 18:7. John 18:7. I'm just condensing it because I want to get the point out, right? Yes, sir, Pastor Fulbright, definitely. Corinthians 11, 13 through 15. Thank you, sir. John 18:7. Look what it said. It said, then asked he them again, whom seek ye? He's talking to the folks that's coming to kill him. Yeah, they're going to take him so he can be killed. Then he asked them. He just knocked them down, but I just want to get to the point. Then asked he them, whom seek ye? And they said, Yahudah of Nazareth. And Yahudah answered, I have told you that I am he. Remember that I am he that I told you about? He said it again. He said it and they dropped because it's the same as what the Elohim was saying when he was talking to Moses, telling him who he was. Which, again, you got to have revelation or else you're going to think it's three of them. But I'll deal with it. I really am going to deal with that topic too. Believe that. Chew it. But back to this. And Yahudah answered, I told you that I am he. If therefore you seek me, let these go their way. He talking about Peter and them. Kiefer and them, right? That the saying might be fulfilled, which he spake of them, which thou gavest me, have I lost none. He was protecting them. He only lost the one, the son of perdition. He told, let them go. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and smote the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. Excuse me. The servant name was Malchus. Then said Yahudah unto Peter, look what he said, put up thy sword into thy sheath. The cup which the Father has given me, shall I not drink it? Now, here we are. Didn't he just tell Peter and the apostles that he had to go to Jerusalem and suffer? After he explained to them, no, let me retract that. Let me say, after he asked them, who do people say that I am? And a lot of people had religious answers, which will affect the way you live. 100%. Personally, everyone that's on the sound of my voice is living according to how they see him, whether or not they're obeying him or not. You have some people that's claiming him, but they shacking. They getting drunk, high, they cuss, bad temper, they do whatever they want to do because that's how they see him. It might have been because of the church they go to and what's being preached to them, but that's still how they see him. Then you got some people that literally changed because that's how they see him. It could be who you fellowship with and where you're getting your word, but it's how they see him, right? So once he then shifted, well, who do you say that I am? He was talking to his own disciples. When they understood that he was the tabernacle of the word, the Son, the only body that the word lived in, the only begotten body, that the word that was disrespected in the beginning, which was Yah, would live in to rescue mankind. Once he understood that they understood that, is when he then began to explain to them the necessity of suffering. And that's when, in the 21st verse, he began to explain to them. He's teaching them, sending them through the mind renewal process of knowing the necessity of self-denial in order to be his child. That's when it happened, in the 21st verse. More importantly, after they was able to let him know that they knew who he was. When Peter answered wrong, and he did, he said, nuh-uh. That carnal nature was talking, though he still was a disciple of the Messiah's. He answered wrong. He went against the word. He was more partial towards his flesh. He was more partial towards the Messiah's flesh. Wrong answer. No. Get behind me, Satan. Well, pushing forward to now they're in the Garden of Gethsemane, to where it's actually going down after the great lesson, after the revelation, after the teaching, after the rebuking, after the correcting, after being called Satan. When it went down, Peter turned around, still pulled his sword out, and attacked after hearing the truth. And then the Messiah had to tell him again, man, what are you doing? Put that away. Because people sit up under the word and they hear truth and they go right out, forget what they heard. Like a man beholding himself in the mirror of the word and then forgetting what manner of man he was. He just taught him. He was teaching him. He explained to him and he rebuked him. Not only did he teach him, but he rebuked him sharply. After teaching and rebuking, he turned around and still pulled his sword out of his sheath and cut the man's ear off to stop it from happening still. So the Messiah had to turn around and say, the cup which my Father has given me, shall I not drink it? Let me give you a little more history. Prior to this happening, the Messiah was sweating blood. He was at a stress level that literally would have killed him had he ever sinned. But since sin had no dominion over him and he couldn't die, it was impossible for him to die. He had to give up his ghost. Excuse me. When he was on the tree, he yielded up his spirit because they couldn't take his life. He had to lay it down because he never sinned. My point being that he had stressed to the level of sweating blood. His blood vessels was bursting and coming out of his sweat glands. That level of stress. And said, I would that this cup pass from me. The same cup he's talking about right here in 11. I would that this cup pass from me. But he made a conscious decision, not my will, but thy will be done. Going back to when Peter was talking to him. That's why he was offended. Because his flesh didn't want to do it in the first place. But he had control over his flesh. And he was willing to suffer to the level of a stress that would kill somebody in order to do what the Most High said. My main point is the need for the redundancy of the reminder of truth in teaching and rebuking and in correcting, because that evil nature, the word told us to kill it every single day. It said, mortify the deeds of the flesh. You wake up with the deeds of the flesh every time you open your eyes. This evil nature is pulling on you. That's why the man of Yah said, I die daily. Every day I open my eyes, I got to re-kill myself. I need more word. He told me to meditate in his word day and night. I have to be reminded every single day. He just told him and he still did the wrong thing. He just told him. He just rebuked him. And Peter had every intention on obeying him and living for him. I will admit this. He didn't have the Ruach, his spirit living in him yet. Because the Messiah was in the process of making that happen. He had to die first. So what he was telling him in John 14, he said that the spirit of truth, which the world can receive not because they don't know him. But you know him because he abided with you. I'm standing here talking to you. He said, I will not leave you comfortless. He said, I will come to you because he's the Ruach. He's the Holy Spirit. Again, that's deep. That's too deep for some religious people, but it's okay. The Most High will still give revelation through religion. But he said, I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. But I can't right now because I'm encompassed in the body. Right? Listen, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you something. Then said, he on put that knife away. After rebuking and teaching, because the reason that it's necessary for you to continue to chime in and hear truth redundantly is because every time you wake up, your evil nature needs to be put in check every single day. Thy word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against thee. You need his word repeatedly. You need to meditate it day and night. You need to be reminded. You know, in school, they have you go to school all that time because they're programming you. Unfortunately, the people that control the schools are not of Yah at all, in the least bit, shape, form, or fashion, to be honest. And I'll say it anyway. They're programming you for their agenda to be good slaves, to learn their authority, to brainwash you, to teach white supremacy, erase the true history of melanated people, replaced it with themselves. A lot of it, they just burnt up. They hid Alexandria, the library, stole all the stuff, burnt up a bunch of stuff, and they've been teaching white supremacy. They got people that are melanated, the indigenous people of the lands, with an S, lands. They just erased everything they done, and they're teaching low self-esteem and teaching that you ran around here, you know, like jungle dummies. Tarzan had to come through and bring civilization to just lie, just a bunch of foolishness. All the mathematics and all the education and stuff came from melanated people, but they erased all that. But back to my point, they force you to go to schools because they want to program you. Why I said that is the necessity of redundancy. They can continue to redundantly brainwash you to cause you to cooperate. They put fluoride in your water and in your toothpaste and all that you think is a good thing for your teeth. It's straight 100% poison that causes one to be docile. It causes you to be lethargic. It causes you not to have the will to rise up against what they're really doing. Well, they got that redundancy program from the Most High. That's why the Most High tell us to meditate in the word both day and night, to study to show ourselves to prove, to teach it to our children. We got to meditate in this ruah, in the spirit of the word, and we need it redundantly because our spirit is wicked, man. We do wrong stuff naturally, and we need that word always. Always. Preaching against sin is a necessity, always. If you read the book, it's always correcting sin. The book is the solution to the pollution, and it's redundant. Don't ever forget that. You need to be reminded daily. And even when you're not listening to a good true word and you're reading on your own, the word will be reminding you to trust him and obey. Period. You ain't going to read nothing other than that. And you saw the necessity because he just told Peter. And he just rebuked him, called him Satan. And Peter did it anyway. Because we need the word. We need to go through the mind renewal process, and we need it redundantly. That's why I preach the way I do. Redundantly. Stop sinning. And everybody on the sound of my voice needed to hear it today again. Everybody needed it, including me. Can the ecclesia say amen? Let's pray. Spirit of the Most High, we love you and thank you for this opportunity coming before you humbly to know how gleaning in the truth of your word, that word is truth. Thank you for the revelation of the need to die daily and the sword of the Spirit, the truth of your word, is what causes us to die in our carnal evil nature. And though we hear truth, we got to hear it over and over again. We got to meditate in it. We got to rehearse it. We got to rehearse it. We got to rehearse it. We got to be reminded because of our evil nature. We got to be reminded so the word will have preeminence in our souls over our evil nature. Because without thy word, our evil nature will reign supreme in our lives and take over. We thank you for the revelation that you just taught the disciples and rebuked Peter sharply, but yet he still cut the ear off because he needed more word. The Messiah gave him the word again, gave him the cup that he had to eat. Cut it out. I got to suffer. Now give revelation to your children that we must also walk in self-denial and suffer as well. We thank you for this revelation, and we're willing, for he that is suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin. We're willing to suffer until we see your face in peace. We trust, believe, and thank you even for this. And thank you even for the revelation in the matchless name of Yahushua HaMashiach. We humbly pray. Hallelujah, hallelujah, and amen. That was the lesson for this morning. We pray that the word found you and unbound you if he was bound. It's something about the word that will set one free. Always destroying, the religious position for true relationship. As much as I teach, and I'm being honest, and then we out of here, but I'm being honest with you, I got to kill the deeds of my flesh every single day. And what helps me is what I preach, what I teach, what I read. It helps me stay in check, and it's still a war. It's still a war. I could easily morph into a religious dude. Easy. I just refuse to. I ain't gonna do it. I gotta watch myself, look at the circumstances that come in my life, and continue to fight to respond in the spirit of love. To mortify the deeds of the flesh, which means to kill. I got a position, I got an opinion, and I got feelings. And I can respond in them too. So I need to be reminded of the word every single day. And to tell you the truth, when we get off here, I still need more. And so do you. So get more. Meditate in his word day and night so you can be like that tree planted by the rivers of water and read the word and hide it in your heart that you might not sin against him. Is that all right? If y'all make it through the day obeying him, prayerfully we'll meet again tomorrow so I can give you some more correction and more teaching so we can keep on reaching in Yahushua's name. If you were blessed by the word, feel free to push the share button. Somebody else need to be reminded not to put your hand on that hot eye, not to turn on Yah today, because somebody might want to kiss you that's kissable. Somebody might want to cuss you out that's fightable today, and you might need that word. Push the share button. Those of you that support the ministry, may the Most High continue to bless you and give you increase, especially in your soul. Those of you that would like to support this ministry because you're growing and learning from it, and the Most High is leading you to. The Most High is leading you to support this ministry. It's my job to tell you how. You got the Cash App. All you got to do is put in $ Yahudah Israel. YAHUDAH YISRAEL. Right? If you want to support the ministry through Facebook, go to Messenger on my page, and there's a giving apparatus. Listen to this, y'all, before I go. We're going to go to the line and talk about the word, but before I go, what was I going to say? I was going to say, I don't even remember what I was going to say. It was important too, but It was some type of encouragement. I want to encourage you, but I just don't remember what it is. I hate that. Anyway, so we're about to go. Y'all want to talk about the word before I lay it back down? No, I got to go. I got to go do some more stuff. The kids don't have to go to school, but folks, I got to go meet somebody early. No, I might be able to rest. Anyway, 302-202-1102, extension 815648. Again, 302-202-1102, extension 815648. If y'all want to talk about the word, you got some time. It's all good. If not, yep, see you tomorrow, Kimyana, on the Shabbat service at 11 a.m. Tomorrow. Y'all continue to pray for me as I pray for you. Be Baruch and Barak Shalom. I'm gone.